sport of basketball. We're going to explore and connect their history as they have done so much for sports in Dominica, so much for the sport of basketball in Dominica. Mickey Joseph and Edgar Robinson. I've been very fortunate to have seen these guys play live at the old Windsor Park Sports Stadium. There used to be a facility dedicated to the basketball, and it was kind of 360 days, 24/7 basketball in that particular facility. And we saw quite a bit of epic games taking place between Cardinals, Hawks, and Flames, and some of the major teams. Mickey Joseph, good morning to you.
Good morning, Alex, and good morning to your listeners out there and to all your fans. It's a pleasure being here with you this morning, and hopefully I can give you some insight into basketball in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and so forth. So I'm here to give you that information.
And good morning, Edgar Robinson. Robbo.
Good morning, Wadix. Good morning to all our listeners. Like Mickey said and Wadix said, I feel privileged to be here to share some of our basketball history or basketball follies or everything that happened to basketball from the 60s, fortunately or unfortunately for Mickey, that's before his time. But he'll probably learn some of it too. And let's have a nice, comfortable camaraderie program.
But just even before we actually begin the program, Mickey, I want to congratulate you for getting some of the old Cardinal members together. I understood that you had a lovely reunion, I think just weekend gone?
Yes, we did. We did sometime last week, Sunday, and basically the idea came up about because, we're a team that we always hanged out together, I mean, from the different age groups. And then since Cardinals left the league, it's been kind of dormant. And so many of us played for the team. And so I decided, I just started last year. And we were unfortunate we did not have the captain of the first Cardinal team to be present. But you had guys like Kiwi, the earliest starters of the team. And then it's one or two young players. We didn't get everybody to come in, but it was nice. And then I said, okay, guys, let's have a second one, so we're going to do a second one, but the interest, I wasn't getting the vibes. But then as we got closer to the time, a few guys called me and told me, Mickey, are we still on? Are we still on? I said, yeah, okay. Since the interest, let's do it again. And what we did to expand it, we invited friends of Cardinals, guys who did not play for Cardinals, but who were supporters and guys who have been close. Because what we find is that in basketball before, we had this friendship and camaraderie that even if we were on different teams, like if Cardinals used to travel, it used to be a combination of Flames, Cardinals. Yeah. So we decided to bring in some of the other guys like Fanso, Robbo being one of the guys that we always like to beat, and also be a good friend. It was for strong competition, So but there's a group that always used to be together, doesn't matter what, we always used to hang together. So we had guys, we invited all the guys who tried for the team, who didn't make the team in way back, So it was nice, and it was really a time when guys to talk, and we kind of spent a moment recognizing our past captain who just passed away, Herbie Thomas. He passed away about 2 months ago. So we kind of highlighted at the same time we spoke about his cause of death, which is an issue that affected a lot of men, prostate cancer.
Wow.
So we kind of spoke about that, and I spoke about it myself, and then a couple of the guys talked about how it was to be a Cardinals and what it was, So it was kind of nice. We stayed there from around 3 o'clock to maybe 10 o'clock.
Wow.
We stayed there late because we had some latecomers like Zah, Zah Rob, Roy Shillingford, Glenn Dupree, a lot of guys came in kind of late. But we stayed there and we had a good time. Guys enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll try to do the third one, but honestly, the guys are diminishing.
With age as we speak, yeah. But let's get into the meat of our topic, and we'll give seniority the first knock. Robbo, how the interest of basketball began for you, and about what time? How long ago?
Okay, surprisingly, my interest in basketball came from my younger brother. I went to grammar school and he went to SMA. But you know, SMA basketball actually started at SMA. So I used to go after school. In those days, we had school 8 to 12 and 1 to 3. So I would go to SMA after 3 the odd day and run around with the guys and get to understand what the game was all about.
And we're talking about around what year?
That was in the 60s. That was maybe 64.
Wow.
And right after that, this coach, American coach, he was a Peace Corps volunteer, Jim Murray. He came and started doing some sessions. We invited him. I think Mr. Walker was our sports master at the time, so he was invited to grammar school. Introduced the sport of basketball to grammar school, but we didn't even have a backboard. So then Mr. Walker asked Philip George, who was then our metalwork teacher at the technical wing, and my uncle, deceased, Ernest Robinson, was the cap woodwork teacher. So a combination of them both want to build the uprights and the other one to do the woodwork. So me being the little boy around helping Mr. George to weld the thing together, and afterwards help him put it up. Actually, the eastern backboard was braced against a pipe that was coming from the hostel to the main building, so that was the stable one. And guess what? The backboard was made from 1-inch planks, 4 pieces of 1-inch planks put together, but they were tightly braced so they couldn't we couldn't see the separations. We didn't really know, like now, that you could use a sheet of plywood or something and have a nice, smooth surface. But it served its purpose because right after that, we started the first basketball team at Dominica Grammar School. I happen to be privileged to be a member of that team, together with George Andrew, Pinochodas Del Rampel, Festus Del Rampel, and Festus and Ezra, Tony Dixon, Ozzy Savran. There's this guy from Woodford Hill, Russell Fry, we used to call him Friar Talk. And one or two other guys. And then, so that's where I started basketball, and I started both at the grammar school. And we played, I think we didn't play our first game in the first year. We played our first game in the second year that the ball was introduced. But, like today, I see as soon as guys get a ball, they want to be shooting three-pointers. We practice, a whole month or two without having to shoot a ball or dribble a ball, just learning the basics of the game. And that made us more competent when we got to play. So that's where it started, and that's where the whole thrust began.
So you can basically say for history, basketball in the grammar school started about 1964.
Yeah, in the early 60s. I mean, if one of the guys listening, maybe obviously Arlington James was on it. One of the guys listening can correct me on the actual date, but I'm sure it was between 64 and 65.
No, because this is interesting because it will be 60 years now.
Yeah.
2024, it will be 60 years since the inception of basketball at the Dominica Grammar School. St. Mary's Academy would have been earlier.
Yeah.
What about you, Mickey, and how the interest of basketball started? I know you're an old SMA student.
Well, yeah, actually, being raised in Roseau, basically our sport was football and cricket. Playing in the old, where all stay in school is right now, playing in the old, we are playing cricket and football. And even when I went to SMA, I played a lot of cricket and football. But actually, my first taste of basketball was when I went to SMA in 1971. I went to SMA in 1971. The same year they had the revolution in SMA, But before that, we saw guys like when Kiwi played, when they brought on the US team. And in the Caribbean cinema, they had this big poster and they used to be advertising Dominica Star, which was Kiwi at the time. Dominica best basketball player at the time, and how we're going to beat the US team and so forth like that. I mean, obviously, I think we lost the game. But from that, I think Kiwi got a basketball scholarship to go to the States. So that's when I really got introduced to basketball. There used to be a guy called Toby Shillingford, a big guy
Mhm.
who was coaching, I in St. Michael's, and he was the boy for St. Michael's, and we always played basketball in the afternoon. At that time, I went to school, we had half day. So guys would come by 1 o'clock, we go home, and then by 2 o'clock, we back on the court playing, you know. So that's how I really started playing basketball and really loved the game, and we would go there every day playing basketball. I mean, so we had guys in my time, we had like Tom who died, Tata, all these guys, you know, Fletcher Lancelot, you know, a lot of these guys were living around the area playing ball. So that is when I really got the game and I really liked the game. But during that time, I played a lot of sports because I captained SMA in cricket, football. I played football. I just saw Brother Jermaine recently, and he told me, boy, he's here. And he said that, boy, guys, didn't think I used to play football, remember? But remember the time when we won the second division championship and we couldn't, you tell us not to play the knockout, you're going away, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, I played a lot of sports and I played table tennis with Pube and all these guys, you know. But at the end of the day, when I left high school, the sport I liked the best was basketball. So I just kept it basketball and I kind of just forgot everything else and just focused on basketball. But I really got introduced to basketball in 1971, actually, when I started SME.
Well, what I would like to know, Robo, is during the 60s, was there a national league at the time?
Well, as to whether they call it a national league or not, but there was a league.
Mhm.
The games were played at SMA. I remember clearly my first game I played against people outside of grammar school was against Bata Pros,
That's from Grand.
Granby. And there was this tall, big German guy. I think he's the one who brought basketball to Granby, not to be mistaken. Massing was his name, I remember that clearly.
German national.
Yeah. So I was playing guard at the time because I was a smaller guy. And this big guy comes down. I try to stop him. And I wound up under the scorer's table. Straight under the scorer's table. So from that time, I told myself, you know, basketball is a man's game. You know, it's not no little boy trying to fool around with big fellas. But as to whether, I don't remember if it was called the National League, but there was a league going on. I remember City Lights.
Yeah.
And
Guys from forming teams, you know.
we got guys like even like Pembo, like feel like Pembo and Edward Chillingford and those guys.
There's about 4 or 5 teams
Right,
in the league at the time.
And mainly around the capital.
Yeah, I think pros came in later. Pros came in. There's pros are other guys who interested.
SMA, yeah.
Terrors
But can any one of you remember when it actually became a national league, let's say officially at the Windsor Park? You will be able to remember.
Well, Windsor Park came in the 70s.
In the
70s.
70s, yeah, because we when I was still in high school, I think the basketball was still being played at SMA.
At SMA.
Yeah.
And then we got the court. Because actually the court was built by the players.
Yeah, well, I'll come to that.
in Windsor Park.
The basketball court
built by the players.
in the Windsor Park was built by the players.
Yeah.
You remember that? You remember those days, Robert?
Yeah, actually, when I came back from Canada, I had a break. The court was half court, and it was all rough. So Carla Elwin used to work at Public Works at the time, and the rest of the guys around the town, Franso and all of us, we were surfacing the court at 2:30 on a Saturday afternoon in the hot sun, in the hot asphalt, just for us to be able to play. And right after that, well, the league had already started, but the whole facility itself wasn't really up to mark to play a league. But from that, the league was organized and other teams joined, like Raiders.
Because it was always difficult because SMA was a controlled kind of place.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get the guys from outside really coming into play in SMA.
Yeah.
So we had to build that court in Windsor Park. And that's where a lot of the restaurant guys came in to start playing basketball. Because those who didn't go to high school started to play the game because it was an open court, you know. And I mean, we would come there whenever, and the time we used to surface the court with asphalt and sea sand.
Wow.
So after we flattened it, we throw the asphalt it, and then we take sea sand and spray it, and then probably goes in there as a roller, where we'd roll and flatten the court. And then we'll leave it for a couple of days, let it get dry, and then after we paint it. It was always done by basketball until when I think they got the OCS tournaments and all this time, and that's when sport teachers used to come in, and Rob and them can tell you better because I was on the state at the time. when they build the stands and everything to expand Windsor Park to be to host
The,
tournaments.
the reason why I want to go that far is because lots of times players just believe that the standard we are in now just came from the sky. They don't know the challenges. They don't know what took place before them. They don't know the hurdles that you guys had to actually traverse over to make the sport what it is. And then some of them don't even know the legacy. So that's why I felt it was very important to go that back, way back. But can any one of you remember the first premier game that you played and for who? Let's go with Mickey first.
Well, let's say
From SMA.
the Premier League really came in late. Actually, I introduced the Premier League when I came back. It used to be Division 1 and Division 2.
Oh.
And then the Junior Division. Because I played in the Junior Division, then I moved to Cardinals. I moved to where I formed my own team, Wizards.
So you were Wizards before Cardinals?
Yeah, I formed my
with
team.
Juba and these
Well,
guys.
Juba came in after me because I formed my team from SMA to we were trying to do like grammar academites.
Yeah.
So we had a team of SMA guys and grammar school guys forming a team called Wizard. And then we played for a number of years. We had Bernard Watty, Damon Shillingford, Paul Frampton, Fletcher
and you're referring to the first division. It wasn't the Premier yet.
No, it wasn't because I only introduced the Premier League when I became the president.
But actually,
the Division 1.
The name.
The name was changed from Division 1
Because
to Premier.
and then we had a separate Division 1 and Division 2 because we felt that we were trying to then I introduced the playoff. Because we always like a round robin, you know. So the team that won, and then we introduced the playoff. We had a champion for the league, and then we go into the real championship, which was the playoff things. So it started off that way. But the round robin was a league where you see by the time the league about 3/4, you know who the champion is.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why I turned against the wrong robin. I do a lot of opposition to it because the guys said, well, this is what we have to play in. And what we did was that I discontinued the knockout and just go into the playoff.
What year you became the president?
I became the president when I came back from the US in 1990. 91, I was the vice president. Al Monel was the president. And then I spent these 2 years and then I took over. And I stayed there for a while.
Okay, join us. This kind of bring us up to date from, let's say, the early days of basketball, the first and second division, up to the Premier Robo. You would have been there. And when you yourself played your first major game.
Okay, well, first of all, like Mickey said, we had Division 1 and Division 2. So when I got back here, I started playing.
You went to study?
Yes. So when I got back here, I started playing Division 1. That's where we played with Errol Blackman, George Andrew. George Andrew was on our team too. George Daniel, Dave Williams. And
what was the name of the team?
Electrons.
Electrons. Wow, I never heard of this one.
Yeah, he used to have a green and white.
I think I have a picture of them.
Right.
Electrons.
Wow.
And Monel used to be on that team too.
Yes, I used to be on that team. So it was like in the late 70s, mid 70s. And then as time went on, okay, I started serving on the executive in maybe 75, 74, 75, Willie Leblanc as well as. Then,
can you recall who was the president then?
Willie
used to be Willie.
Always Willie.
Yeah, he used to be running things.
Because actually, Willie got us into all the international basketball circles like FIBA and all of that.
That's really Leblanc Plastic.
Yeah.
Because it's important we understand that and we know the role that he played.
Yeah, he played the championing role up to getting us in the mainstream of basketball. So right after the basketball, don't forget Hurricane David came.
Yeah.
And then I set up a basketball court in Funkwe. So we formed Blue Jays. We won 2 championships.
Wow. What division?
Division 2. We beat Bedo and them Flames in those days, Sunday afternoons. Beat them twice in the Windsor Park in the backyard. Actually, the first year we came out, we never won anything. And fellas started getting despondent and so on. I said, no, we have 2 players on the team. Because they can play a little bit, they don't want to pass the ball to others. So we don't want them. They said, but coach, what are we going to do? I said, no, let us lose everybody play. And then we won the 2 championships.
No, but during the time you were a player coach.
I was still playing with electrons. Then I started coaching Blue Jays.
So that's about 1975.
No, I played up to all that time I was playing, but the Blue Jays thing started right around 79.
79, right after Hurricane David.
Right after Hurricane. Also, the women's team came around.
Wow.
And I coached the women's team for a year. We also won a championship. I remember clearly me taking those girls to Sufria and beating Sufria Sharks. Andre can call now and you verify that.
Basketball.
Yeah.
Andre Charles.
See, every time you meet every boy, I don't forget the time you brought those girls to Sufria and beat Sufria Sharks. So that was in the actual development of the sport, and we went on from there. Up to the 80s when Mickey came back. Actually, when Mickey came back, we literally say, okay, Mickey, you back. Take charge. Mickey?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, what you see, I have to give credence to the time of what he called those guys.
Yeah, we sponsor. We sponsor teams. Well, sponsored what they call it, sponsored basketball teams.
From what I understood, the year from 80s, the 80s was basketball was really big with roll and then played music and everything. It was huge. Yeah. It was huge during that time. And when I came back, I just tried to maintain with Jones and his guys were the Arlington new guys who were running basketball at the time. And I just tried to maintain the kind of standard they had when I took over. Because when I came back, they wanted me to be president right here. And I said, guys, I've been at Dominica for almost 10 years. I don't know anything about Dominica basketball anymore. So give me 2 years, let me see what it is. So that's when I became the president and I worked with 2 years. And then at the end of the year, I said he was leaving. And then I moved into the position.
Yeah, but these days, basketball was on a high.
Yeah, it was a leading sport. I mean, okay, I would make a sweeping statement saying it was a leading sport, but it was rivaling the leading sport.
Yeah.
And even cricketers and so on are beginning to get jittery because they say, oh, you're all taking out the tall fellas that can make pace bowlers and make them basketballers and so on. So that is the level at which basketball was. And not only Dominica, we were at a level in the Caribbean. It was
especially the small islands.
Yeah, small islands.
We weren't easy to beat. I played for Cardinals in the late 70s and early 80s because I left Dominica in 82. But I played for Cardinals from 78.
Tell us about, you see, that rivalry. And I remember Cardinals, Flames, Hawks, Wizards with Juba and them, up to Keller, JK Eagles, and those days at the Windsor Park, thousands of people came to support basketball. I myself was part of providing the musical equipment with what they would have major games and then block after. Those days were the basketball was on a particular level. You know what I mean? People really came down in their numbers and really supported basketball.
That was always good. Because I remember playing when I played for Wizards, which at that time we were considered the bad boy team. Creole from by the
Saba.
The partner that fellow who disappeared.
Eustace
Bello. These are the guys who were from Wizards. We were like the bad boy team, but we would get close, but never get close enough to win because Cardinals, Flames, at the time, those are the teams who were dominating the league with battle crews. So when we get a victory, it was like nice to get a victory to beat them guys. But you see, when you look at battle crews coming down to play a game, battle crews will have 4 or 5 trucks coming down.
Whole of Granby would come down.
Battle crews, and they would come in there and you would have guys like Zyro, Perez, all these guys who so they made the national team.
The Henderson guy.
Lambert
Henderson.
Who was one of Dominica top shooters.
Yeah.
He's one of Dominica top shot.
I think he was Michael Henderson's father, right?
Yeah. He was one of the top shooters. I actually was competing with him for a side for place on the national team, So it was proud. After that, playing for Wizards for a while, you have this usual crowd. In the days, maybe it still happens. But I remember Windsor Park, you have 4 entrances.
Yeah, man.
So you have one entrance. So I remember the times when we used to have a little girlfriend. So
Passing that entrance.
Passing that entrance. The one you want to choose, you tell one, go in that entrance. And the one the shoes you pass in at the entrance. So we that day.
I know,
But
I
I
know.
tell about the kind of crowd, and so we saw have a little bar there,
Yeah.
and we saw have a little drinks, and we saw chill out, and like we were talking at when I moved across the Cardinals. Um, One of the top things, I was the youngest on the team because I took over the place after one of the guys, Tony Charles, migrated, went up to school in the US, and I
Tony and Bobby.
Tony and Bobby,
I
yeah.
moved in to take his place. Bobby was still on the team when I moved in. Bobby is, well, now I know Bobby was younger than me, so, because I'm 1 year or 2 years older right now. But they won the team before because they came from ground school. Whole I was in charge. Whole I was the one recruiting teams, players. So he was recruiting players from grammar school. And grammar school and STMA are the two top junior teams that we always selected players from to form teams. You know, so it was kind of a different type of vibes. I mean, we in the later days we did come to that level in terms of even when we moved to Lindo Park. I mean, the kind of crowds I used to come and watch basketball in Lindo Park it created so much of a problem within the executive itself, where guys figure they want to start making money and people wanted to come there, wanted to make money. So it came back. It's a little different level right now. But at that time there was this kind of niceness between us, even though we played against each other. Like when we had the function for the reunion for Cardinals, and all of us inside there remember the days that even though we would play with each other or God's out to beat each other up.
I remember clearly. I remember clearly that Cardinals' first five was all national players during those days. Even Flames, most of Flames, Neckers and Beto and these guys were also all national players. Hacks, people like you and Low Black, Step Foot, and these guys.
So that's what Mickey is saying. Up to Sunday, I was telling those guys, Willie and I were probably the most bitter rivals
on the court.
On the court. But as soon as we step out of the gate, we just went straight down by Hope, and we sat down, ate and drank and have a good time. So we were basketball rivals, but there was not that enmity or that arrogance or that big hullabaloo among us outside. Mickey and I fight so much over the radio. Looking right there, we have always been close buddies.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So,
one of the things I want to also get out of the program today is the commitment, the level of professionalism, and the physical training. Because fortunately, I was a Windsor Park guy, so I would have seen the guys practicing morning, noon, and night, which is not what's going on. I mean, so guys were. The skill set wasn't the only thing that made the level of basketball, but then the commitment was one, the camaraderie because guys were hanging out together, but the level of professionalism and how guys stuck to being fit, because it was so intense in terms of the rivalry that guys wanted to beat each other. So those guys did quite a bit of work on their own, which is unlike today. Just one of those, as I heard one of the coaches lamenting, guys are hardly doing work on their own.
You see, I have a problem with that. One, let's look at the older things. When we played basketball, like Mickey will tell you, we wanted to win. There was only this one court, and everybody had to get a sweat. So I would go to work with my running shoes and my ball in the back of my car. Same thing Plastic would do, same thing Pembo would do for the guys who were out of town. So like Mickey and them, you meet them there at 4 o'clock. Now, if you happen to be on a losing team, you might only play one game for the afternoon. So the commitment was we getting there on time and making use of our time. Then when a little later, it became teams being allocated a specific day for practice. And that is where we eventually formed Blazers, because to leave Massac and come to town to practice for one afternoon wasn't making sense. And then by that time, we built our own court. So it made a difference in the commitment. One, we had a court for ourselves to practice every day. And fellas did practice every day. That is what made the team so good. And still, we never gave up our afternoon in the park. So when we got to the park in the afternoon, we were able to play against those other fellas, get a little familiar with the hoops and so on, and see our next course to win. But it all goes back to wanting to win. I mean,
That hunger to win.
and I think too, in the preparation of the team, some of us fellas just profess to be coaches. So we just come and make subs in the night and say we are the coach. But you have to be able to prepare your team to win. Like when I coach, I even went down to the point of the do's and the don'ts of winning. Like you don't go to sleep and no sex before the game and there's no pain story. I mean, and it worked. When I would tell guys, okay, let us be a little serious about this thing. Try doing try the do's and the don'ts. The next time you're going to play a weaker team or so, forget the do's and the don'ts, and you'll see your performance. So that became now a habit. The actual commitment came from your preparation. If you're winning, you're more committed to preparation, you're more committed to wanting to play, you're more committed to preparation, and you don't want other people to beat you. And then the other thing came up when you had regional tournaments and the top teams were invited to regional tournaments. So Cardinals want to go to a tournament in St. Kitts. Cardinals is going to come prepare all year because, fellas, you know, at the end of the year, we're going to St. Kitts.
That was like an added incentive for winning the
tournament.
So it was like a motivation for the guys.
The same thing with Blazers. With there's this regional tournament in St. Martin. We got invited to that tournament. The first year we went and we won the tournament. By the time we got to St. Martin the second year, there were billboards of Blazers all over Phillipsburg. Everybody now coming to see Blazers play
and to beat Blazers.
And then we turn around and beat everybody. So you come back to Dominica, the fellas figure, okay, we want to play for that team. And that's the edge Cardinals always had over because Cardinals was a winning team,
legacy.
And fellas want to play for a winning team.
Let's go to that Cardinals winning. I see the calls have been going. We'll take the calls in a while. But then, Mickey, you were part of possibly the most successful basketball team ever assembled in Dominica.
I'll challenge you on that. I'll challenge you on
that.
Challenge?
Yes. You all Blazers won the championship more than Cardinals?
Yeah, let's give it jacket. But just to go back to the terms of getting ready for the league, you can look at one man and you can just see the kind of dedication that we had in terms of training. Patrick Pemberton.
Yeah.
Before we started the league, you go in the Windsor Park and you see Patrick doing around 10 runs around the football field. That is what we used to do. Run up to Jack's Walk, go up to the Zone area of that side up there, and run up and down and then come back to the club to play. And in the mornings, we get up early in the morning, 6 o'clock, go take a run and then come back because we're getting ready for the league. So by the time the league starts, we're already in shape. But in terms of championship, I think in the early stage of basketball, you could say Cardinals was the most dominant team and probably the most successful team. Because of longevity of Blazers, you can now say they have won the most championships in Dominica basketball. Because they are much longer than Cardinals. Cardinals deteriorated sometime. Actually, when they got deteriorated in 2000, around 2000, they dropped out because by that time I was coaching Knicks and they lost a couple championships, and I think Fletcher was the one that was the last one running the Cardinals team, and then because Kiwi and these guys are taking a little backseat, and then I think Cardinals just collapsed after that. But I mean, to be right now, you would have to say Blazers is the most successful team
overall in terms of the history. In terms of the history, yeah. And that's why I'm happy you guys are here because there had to be a formula for winning.
Yeah.
You know, there had to be
training.
And then, you know, you mentioned a while ago, training, the dedication to training, morning, afternoon, and even before your set routine, you would still make rounds, Jack's Walk. Jack's Walk wasn't easy, you know, in the autumn. You know, your routine. And then in terms of you and your formula for continue to winning, apart from the hunger and you want to win, what was the formula for Blazers winning so many championships?
Okay, two things. One, I will endorse what Mickey saying, like Ashraf was the biggest player
Yeah.
and maybe the best player on Ireland at his time.
Mm.
He was the first man to get to practice, the first man to run up Checkhold, up by Dens, where the houses, and come back down. Same thing morning and every day. So with that, you found he set the pace, he set the goal for other players who want to win. And then the other part of it is we kept replenishing our squad before it got too low. So if you go to the Massa building now, you will see there are almost 60 names of people who played for Blazers in a 25-year period. You know, so we didn't allow, like other teams, when players drop out, let the team deteriorate that much before we start plugging in.
So you would recruit young players, you would scout in the area
and
to see.
apart from that, like I said before, players wanted to play for a winning team. Fellas wanted to go on tour. I will give Joe Bob a little big up there. Joe Bob had played basketball for all these years and he never won a championship. The first time he played for Blazers and he won a championship, tears came to his eyes.
I know.
He said, boy, that is how it feels to win a championship. So you can see the effect on proper preparation and the whole camaraderie. The other thing is the team, just like Cardinals, there's a big camaraderie in the team. Where you saw Jeff, you saw Ashworth, you saw Carlisle, you saw Lynch. Every time it was possible, those guys were together. So it was like a brotherhood. Nobody wanted to let down each other. And everybody wanted to outdo each other in a game. Look, I'm going to score 20 points or I'm going to have 5 block shots. So that kind of added incentive just made it the team almost impossible to beat.
What about the discipline, Mickey, and discipline?
One of the things that the things I look back at Cardinals was a team, and guys used to wonder why Cardinals used to dominate the league so much at the time. But 2 months before the league would start, Cardinals would be training. So it was something that Plastic, Kiwi, all these guys had in them that we have to train before the season starts. All these guys who played for Cardinals like Cox, and all these fellas.
Irvin McIntyre,
Irvin came in.
Tosh.
Tosh and Mickey came together.
Tosh and you came together.
No, I came in after Tosh.
Tosh and Bobby
Tosh
Shaw
came in before you?
Yeah, Tosh came in from grammar school.
Tosh and Bobby Shaw and Hola.
Bobby Shaw and together Tony Chan. These guys came in.
Because I remember you and Tosh as the guards.
Well, after they left, we and Tosh were the dominant guards. Because we were like, in those days, we were not focusing on the shooting. I think all success between me and Tosh.
Fast break.
We were very quick.
But Tosh had a brother previously that played basketball.
Covered Williams played for Cardinals.
For Cardinals,
the national team also. But we were a quick team. But the whole point was the training. And I remember bringing that same attitude to the Knicks team. Because Knicks team, which used to be Lions before, and then we converted it to Knicks. And Knicks was a team with a lot of talented young players. But they were just playing around. Until when I got them to understand that, listen, we have a half court in the Windsor Park, 2 half courts, we have to train. And the first year, we came as a team and we trained. We lost the championship to Blazers that year. Second year, we came back and then we dominated the league for 3 years.
Wow.
And then we lost the championship in 2000 against
Blazers again
in Malta. At that time, Cardinals were out of the question. Cardinals had dropped out. And then when we had the opportunity, because we had the opportunity first to win another championship, and then the guys, like usual happening, the players, they felt they're good enough. They don't need to practice anymore. And then guys just decided not showing up to practice anymore. And that's when I stopped coaching the Simpex. That time, Simpex was sponsoring them. So I stopped coaching. The next team, I tell listen, that is it. You guys actually came out like almost last that year in the league. Just because they didn't want to train. Which is critical. I mean, training is something, because you see, if you train a player, you get to know the player. You know how they move in. You can expect a Kiwi, and I play the Kiwi, and I know how Kiwis play. I know how Kiwi like the ball. We know what Pembo used to do. We know what Chalo used to do. I know what Tosh used to do. We and Tosh used to run the fast break, and we knew how it was going. Either he take off, I wait back, wait for the ball, and then
And
feed
throw to
him.
him.
So it goes either way. But you need to train to get to know players, and you need to know how to go. So training is important, and it's sad nowadays that you have guys where there's so much opportunity now. And in other days where right now, I mean, there's money flowing in the sports. I mean, when I look at the kind of money Olympic pouring in some of the sports and to send them to tournaments, we are in our time. Man, we
Fundraiser.
had to be quiet, to our language. We're struggling to get money to travel. So it's a lot of different right now, but training is the most important thing if you want to be successful.
Okay, let's take our first call for Mickey Joseph and Edgar Robbo Robinson. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. It's nice to hear you doing a historical review of basketball development in Dominica.
That sounds like a former sports minister.
All right. Yeah,
Ron Green.
Green LaPlane. Yeah. I just wanted to compliment both Robbo and Mikey for their outstanding work over the years in basketball, and of course people like Wilmos LeBlanc, Plastic. Just a historical note. I was elected president of the DAB. I think it was 1975 or 6, and I served for two years. I remember bringing down a team from LaPlane. I think that was the first team LaPlane ever formed to play in the league, and of course the Cardinals were the dominant team at the time. And I also remember a little anecdote. On the day of Hurricane David, I was in Roseau. And I recall when I sort of got up and looked around Roseau, after the storm, in the afternoon, or was it the next morning? I think it was the next morning, yes, after the storm. I was in Roseau. And we had to travel, the basketball team had to travel to Barbados. I had no idea of the serious impact of Hurricane David on Dominica as a whole. I saw a couple telephone poles down, a lot of galvanized all over the place. And I went looking around for the basketball players to say, okay, let's organize to go to the airport to go to Barbados, not knowing how bad it was.
Wow.
And in fact, I ended up spending 5 days in Roseau before I could get back to that place,
All right. Thank you very much, Rod. And thanks for the contribution you've made to Dominica, especially sports. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, well, that is quite true because we will actually, I was on that Dominica team, planning to go to Barbados on that team. And we were actually practicing the day before Hurricane David. And that time that you were saying that the hurricane was going to hit Barbados. And we all had a cordial praying for Barbados that hope it doesn't hit Barbados. Because we want to go to the Carrier Cup tournament, we want to go to that championship. And at the end, we end up getting it the same night, the next day, we end up getting blows from David. So it's quite right where Ron trained the coach of our team. Ron trained the youth team. I remember the youth team at the time. Same team, we had to go to tournaments and that fell through. But Ron was the coach of that team, and Ron came back from the US and really was, because I think he was president sometime again later on. And he really played an instrumental part in terms of basketball in Dominica. And so when he talks about the history of the guys, I think he can include himself.
This is important because you see, we
was one of the top guys too in basketball.
We need to know these things, and that's why, like Facebook those days, we can replay, and people who do not know the information can find out the information. But in you yourself, Mickey, as a national player, can you recall your most memorable moment as a national player, and then we'll get into coaching?
Well, I would say making a national team to go to Guyana, which was the first CARICOM championship to went to in 1981. I was not a starting five because you had Tosh, you had Neckers, came with Oliver Burton, and then you had Bogori, Lennox, Jovier, Kiwi, and Pembo. These were the
was Calty part of that team?
Calty was an observer on that team.
Okay.
Calty came on the team as an observer. Mikey Casting was an observer referee. And then we had myself as the point guard, Step Foot, Black, Juba
Oh,
was on that
boy,
team.
that's a powerful team, boy.
She was on that
My
team. And
word.
actually, I can remember that same girl. So I was so mad with plastic at the time because it was plastic boy. I played on your team. And we dominated Dominica basketball. Now we try to put in Juba the play before. I was so upset. But the point is, what the point is that Juba was taller than me.
Yeah.
That was the thing. The team that much height.
Me and Juba could shoot from outside. Juba was a better shooter than me than outside. I was a more penetrator than anything else. But we were playing against guys who tall. You know, when you play these foreign players, they were tall players.
Taller, yeah.
So Juba got the edge on me to play before me. So he was the first sub, the first guard sub coming in after him.
Off the bench.
But that was, I think, my biggest time, my best time playing for the Dominica team. I think I had more great times playing for Cardinals because by that time I was also starting Cardinals, and we went to St. Kitts, we were in the Montserrat. We traveled all over the place because our basketball was so high in Dominica that St. Kitts
would have invited you over.
Us to come over to show them how to play basketball. So
because it's very interesting to note that the level Dominica basketball was superior over several of the, in particular, OECS islands. More calls coming in from Mickey and Robo this morning. Good morning to you, Creole Habit.
Morning, Wadix.
Good morning.
Morning, Mickey. Morning, Robo. A question I want to ask: with the experience of Mickey and Robo, and the players we have now, do they ask you all to help them? That with you, the experience you'll have. Why I'm saying that, I heard Robo mention something, and the few games I watch on social media, the players, they want to shoot a three one time. You understand? And then to me, they hardly dribble the ball. They dribble once and then they send the ball from one end to the other end. Now they want to shoot 3-pointers as though they're Curry, but they're not a Curry yet. So I'm just trying to find out if they ask you all for help in those areas.
Thank you very much, caller. Would you like to respond, guys?
Okay, well, I can take that up. Two things happen. The social media has been playing havoc with our basketball. I'm not a negative person on against social media, but I remember clearly when they started looking at basketball on TV, we were still at Windsor Park. I told the guys, this is going to affect our basketball. For two reasons, we only see the finished product. And a lot of the players, both men and women, they refuse to delve deeply into the whole preparation of the player. And, so they think just looking at the guy shooting on TV will make them a good shooter. And if you try to do like, there's this team from Pichler, they were playing a game at Massac one time. I saw the way one of the guys was getting on. So after the half, he walked by and said, hey, come, let me tell you something, bro. See this thing, I can see you will make a good player, but you have to kind of cool your head and don't take on the referee. Boy, that's the worst thing I did. He started, what you guys know about basketball, what the fellas do for basketball. I said, okay, take a right about turn and look at the wall and you see 27 trophies. That is what they did for basketball. I have nothing more to tell you. So, when you come up against people with that attitude, you even thinking twice about offering
to assist.
Unless you're in an environment or in a community that the people know you and the players willing to accept your advice. But outside of that, to me, it's a futile experience.
As coaches, Mickey, we'll go with you and then we'll take the celebrated coach after. You were also coach.
Yeah, I coached for a team. When I started coaching, my first coaching stint was in the police team. I think the police used to be like a stipend. Yes. To be like a stipend every month for coaching them, but then being a player who was always winning, I couldn't really take that losing. I couldn't take that losing the police team. So then I backed out. I told us that Nicholas fella that was there at the time. I told him, listen, boy, I can't take that anymore. But then I used to be close to Fear that used to be Sophie Nasty. Okay. At the sports shop. I used to be close to Sophie. And then I made an arrangement with Sophie where she got Wilson balls with the DABA logo on it. Because she was a sports agent. And then Milton may so rest in peace.
By the bridge.
Was coaching the Lions. It used to be Dame Eugenia, and then they moved, and then they formed. Then Dame Eugenia, that team started to die, and then they went to.
And it's the Virginia Bulls.
Yeah,
I was on that team.
and they changed them to Lions. After
Yeah.
And then they went to Fia, and Fia said, "Listen, the only way I'm going to give you guys a sponsorship is if you get Mickey to come and coach." And they agreed. So that's when I started coaching the Knicks team. And then we won a number of championships for the Knicks team. So as a coach, I won 5 championships as a coach. I played in the finals about 8 times. But I won 3 championships with Knicks, and then I won 2 with X. And with Cardinals, I won like a bunch of championships with Cardinals. But as a coach, my time because I started coaching in the 2000,
Early 2000s.
late 90s. And then I stopped for a while, and then I went back on the association at the time. In 2000, we went back to the association, and then after that, I pulled out again, and that's when I started to coach the X-Men team. And then we won 2 championships, and then after that, I pulled out from the X-Men team, and then I decided I coached the national team for a couple of times where that's one of my proudest moments as coaching the national team was when I was able to coach the team when we went to the Caribbean Championships in Barbados, and we were able to beat Jamaica, Trinidad, and we lost to Guyana by 1.
That was what year and players like who?
2000.
I was Barbados 2000. Players like who?
2000.
Players like who?
Well, I think
You had one Forest
in my
Gump.
mind that was the best Dominica team ever assembled. You had players like Price, you had
Kalai.
BJ, the policeman, you had Kalai, you had Bunji, you had Scrope from Castle Bruce, you had Fidel, you had Jimbo, we had Guinea, we had Fletcher and Didi. Those guys.
Didi Alexander.
Yeah. I think that was in my mind that's the best Dominica. The only person that wasn't on that team was Ashok, because at the time Blazers had this little issue with us, and guys were convinced the boy not to go and play for them, not to go and play for them guys. That was the top hero there. If he had been part of that team,
you'll have beaten.
Because we had the height. Because he had the height and he could jump. So we had that kind of team where we could. Because I mean, when we beat Trinidad and we beat Jamaica, I used to talk to somebody, the coaches and the guys, and say, "Boy, Mickey, boy, Dominica really getting up there now." And I think we had to start watching Dominica now. We had to start watching Dominica because at the time we were showing so much growth. And when my partner from Grenada, Naka, tell me, Mickey, it was because of our success in the CARICOM that this guy is killed our Winner Islands tournament.
Yes.
We notice here, no Winner Islands tournament anymore.
Because of Dominica's dominance.
Because we were Dominica, Grenada, Senegal, we were developing so quickly that we were now challenging those
The bigger teams, yeah.
So they created a situation where all money was going towards the CARICOM or the Caribbean Championships now. And that's what put the Dominica, not TABA, from what I understand, into some heavy financial debt when they sent a youth team to the Guyana. And
never recovered.
They never recovered from that. And then right now, we were going to host the tournament. We went to Grenada. We came out, I think, 3rd or 2nd or something like that. But 3 teams tied. So they had to go by point averages who would get up the situation. And then Dominica was supposed to host the second, but we were still playing down at Massac. And all teams had said, "Oh, and the guys confident, no, we're going to Caribbean Championships instead." So at the end of the day, there's only one team that agreed to come to Dominica. So then I called up the tournament and see what that is. And from that time, we had and it's all because of guys who focusing on the Caribbean Championships. And they didn't realize we know that a tournament that made us good because we had the OCS Championship, we had the We Know That Championship, and we had all these little side championships to play that was making us so good. I mean, as I say, we went to Simpecnics, went to Antigua. Antigua paid everything for us. Put us up in a 5-star hotel to open the league for them.
Yeah.
We were the champions like that. And we went there, we played one night, next day we took the plane and we came back to Dominica. That's the kind of vibes we have.
Yeah, and the relationship, networking.
So it's unfortunate right now that the Winner Island Championship is dead and the OCS is dead. because Dominica, I think, is the defending champions. Really, Dominica won
Still the defending champions.
in Dominica. So I mean, it's sad, but you see, like somebody was saying, why don't we help? I mean, I've been in basketball for 25 years. You see, and sometimes you have to leave for others to take over. And when you're something for like a while, people start saying things about you.
Yeah.
And I left basketball because the kind of things that was being said. And when I go home at night and I see my wife crying, and I get things like that, and I go home at 1 o'clock in the morning every night from basketball. I had to make the decision as to does it work?
Family or
family, and a lot of us did that because a lot of us had issues with our home because we also live. So I had to make the decision as to stay there and have guys say all kind of things about me after. And my mother died, and every day she would tell me, Mickey, before she died, Mickey boy, she used to live all day. My mother used to spot and say, well, Mickey, I hear them man saying things about you, but them man, they don't realize how much of my money you used to keep basketball.
What about you, Robo? What about you, Robo? Because we're running out of time there.
Okay.
But you are the most decorated coach in basketball coach in Dominica. 27 championships.
This team, not him.
Well,
no.
He was involved.
Let me just tell you, it is not my team.
His team.
Let me just make it clear. I don't forget I said we brought basketball from Creole. That was Division 2. We won 2 championships. We won 1 championship with the women's team. I coached the national team for a few months that we still the defending Winner Islands champions. That's how many? 4. We won 2 regional championships in St. Martin.
And the Blazers.
And we won 18 local champions.
18 local championships. Wow. That is 6 and 18, that's 24.
No, don't forget, Blazers still winning without me.
Yeah.
Because they're still defending champions now this year.
Yeah.
So I'm not counting
these others.
But I mean, just fell in their own cap. But I'll endorse a little bit what Nikki said about our Winner Islands basketball. First of all, that tournament in Barbados, we only had 1 foreign-based player. That was Carlisle.
Yeah.
All the other teams, like Barbados won the championship, they had maybe 7 or 8 foreign-based players. All the other teams had at least 5 foreign-based players. We had 1. And I think they gave us a rough deal somewhere along, with one of those games. But the Winner Islands tournament, when the OECS tournament fell through, we tried to keep the Winner Islands tournament going. And at that time, we were still vibrant in CARICOM. But some of our partners too, they don't have enough gall, if you want to say so. I wouldn't, like Wayne Williams from St. Vincent. I was president of basketball, and we went to a meeting in the Dominican Republic. Now, all CARICOM members were there, surprisingly, for the first time. So we decided, we got numbers, we're going to table a motion, this, that, and get at least basketball, get CARICOM to bring more, because that time they were just changing the name from CARICOM basketball to Carry On basketball. But get more games to come down south, because the main problem when we're not able to go to CARICOM is because the games are too far and it's too expensive. So apart from we not having the personnel, even we would be able to take a gamble, it's not worth it, because the amount of money you're going to spend just to go to the Bahamas or to go to Cuba, it's not worth it. So even then, I tried rallying with Wayne and some of the guys. Look, let us, and the guy said, no, this guy from St. Croix, able to move them, they made him president, and that was it. They just took CARICOM basketball away from us.
But it's tough.
But as we leave Mickey, because we have to make way for the news, possibly we can do this again, because I loved what came out from this particular program. Connecting the history, networking the history, very important. And it was always said that the commitment those days with the sportsmen in particular not there. We actually listened to the journey of Thea Lafont, who won the gold medal for Dominica, the commitment she had. As a matter of fact, she had to leave out working to 24/7 deal with, a sport. That is not present in Dominica as we speak. The commitment to this guy. I mean, you're in the coaches. I mean, you're in the national associations crying for commitment. Fellas prefer to party. Fellas prefer to have sex before games and have a wonderful time. And that possibly is one of the biggest message in days gone by and now. The level of commitment, the level of preparing yourself 2 months before a tournament, Cardinal would prepare themselves. These guys would walk, would run. How many times train? 3 times a day. This
Blazers train every day.
Blazers train every day.
But you see, I mean, to listen to you and feel like, I think, let me be a bit controversial now. I think one person that we're leaving out is that Lloyd guy who won the bronze medal.
Yes, Creole did something with him.
Yeah, I think even he should get some recognition because
I believe
at the time he was the first guy who really won a medal at the Pan Am Games and at the 400-meter level, and he was supposed to be carried to win a medal at the Olympics in China. But then he got sponsorship from Champion Sport and he changed all his gear, and that kind of just messed him up. So I think somebody that the Olympic committee, I was part of the Olympic committee myself. He's something that they should try to look at giving him some, and he should get some recognition. Likewise, he had to stay away from working. He was married. I remember the Olympics, we used to send $1,000 for him every month so that he could just like pay a laptop, so that he could pay a coach and train to come to be at that games. And like Creole, he started off getting a lot of stake, and then got to the point where when he got the bronze medal at the Pan Am Games. And so I think he should get some recognition. And my last thing to say, I wonder why is it that we basketball is not getting any meritorious service awards?
Say that again. Why?
Why we basketball players and basketball administrators not getting any meritorious service awards?
From Mickey Joseph and Edgar Robinson, this was another Creole Hybrid program. We'll be back next week with another program of interest where we actually network Dominica's culture, the front seat into the culture of Dominica. I really want to thank these guys for spending time with us and bringing us up to. We need to know our history. We need to be familiar with our legacy. We need to be familiar with our heroes. Those really paved the way for us to be where we are today. Prince Wadix, may God bless you. The News Major comes up next.
Yes, sir. Sakay Malad. Prince Wadix. Prince Wadix. Prince Wadix.